Welcome to the Patrick Real Estate Show, where we explore the fascinating world of real estate investing with your host, Patrick Switek. Patrick is a dynamic young entrepreneur and an accomplished real estate investor who's passionate about helping others achieve financial freedom. Each week, we sit down with some of the most inspiring individuals in the real estate industry and delve into their personal journeys, lessons learned, and secrets to their success. Let's dive into this week's episode.
Ariel, welcome to the Patrick Real Estate Show. For the people that don't know Ariel, she is a colleague of mine in the past. We worked for the same company, AvantStay. It's where I got my start in short-term rentals. It was in 2019. Ariel worked there for a little longer, and we met there, and she was in charge of the customer service department, or at least a manager or high role there. Since then, she's worked with multiple companies in the short-term space and eventually had the courage to get out of it and start her own short-term rental management company, which she quickly scaled to 3026 Live. She was just telling me before the show. And it's just every day it's growing. And we bumped into each other at Level Up Your Listing. And we just had a really great conversation. And she just had so many great insights into customer service, because we're in the hospitality industry, guys. And I think a lot of times people will overlook the customer service part, but that's the reason why so many people are raving about her, and she gets all 5-star reviews and people want to work with her so badly. In San Diego, like a really hard market to even tap into, yet alone dominate like she has. I'm just really excited to have her on. So without further ado, Ariel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
And how did you even get into short-term rentals to begin with? Did you want to look for a role in short-term rentals, or were you in customer service before? Tell me how you ended up at AvantStay and your story behind all of that.
Yeah, no, not at all. I started off in sales actually, and that's where all my training and background came from. So after college, I worked at ADP, the payroll company, and they have really great sales training, and you can advance there, and it's a really great company to work for. But I absolutely hated talking about payroll all day. Was not interesting to me. I really had always loved real estate, but I didn't understand what exactly I liked about it. I think I just liked looking at homes. And I ended up getting recruited by someone who used to work for ADP, who had joined a startup in San Francisco called Home Suite. And they were basically, this was like 2014. So they were trying to compete essentially with Airbnb and be a marketplace for furnished rentals. But their whole like niche was 30-day minimums. So we only did really corporate travel and those types of stays. And so that was my first foray into this type of real estate venture, I would say. And working there, I did sales and I managed a territory, and I was helping to bring on properties and also to do leases. So I worked with the guests directly, and I just didn't even know this was a market that existed, but there's so many business travelers. Even back then, this was such a thing. And so I just realized there was opportunity there. That company ended up not working out. They're not around anymore. But I then went on to sell residential real estate in San Francisco for a while. But ultimately, I wanted to be back in Southern California. I'm from Central California, and I just miss the weather down here. So that's what led me to move to LA. And I saw the job posting for AvantStay. I think when I joined AvantStay, they had 30 properties total. They were mostly all in Palm Springs. I think they had a couple in Temecula at the time. And I read the job description. I think they wanted someone to just do like basically the guest comms. And I was like, I could do this in my sleep. I'm like, I'm going to take this role. I'm going to explore LA, have so much fun, just take it as a job. And I just really fell into the industry head first. You worked there, you saw how fast we grew. And so I just got immersed in all things short-term rentals while working there. And so that's how I ended up at AvantStay.
Yeah. How big of a team were you managing? Because I know you were doing,
So when I started, I was just like a rep. And I actually had two directors that I reported to turn over in about 6 months. And so I never wanted to be a leader. I was like, I do not want to do this. This looks terrible. But I basically was very candidly told by one of my higher ups that if I don't advance, then I'll just be in the same position forever. So I think that really challenged me to take on leadership and learn that. So yeah, it was trial by fire. I ended up like accidentally managing the department because I was just interim doing things until they hired someone but it took them, I think, over a year to finally find someone who was a really great fit. And so working under her when she joined, she had come from hospitality. She had come from the Hilton brand, had been there for many years. And I came from sales, like I mentioned. So I think how I approached everything was totally wrong. It was not about getting good reviews. It was about making the company money and saving the company money wherever I could. It was more about, hey, we're the company. We're telling you how this is our property. This is how it goes. It was fully backwards. I will admit that fully. And so when she joined and I started working under her, she really taught me hospitality. Like, we are here to provide an experience. That's what people are paying for. And that's ultimately what's going to make us successful with revenue is by providing a really great experience. So I learned a ton that way. But yeah, then I ended up working under her, just managing a team of all of our VAs. And then I headed up reservation sales. So we ended up splitting sales and support after that. And so I headed up sales, but we were all one team still. And so we were all working with all the guests.
Yeah. How many people were on that team?
So I think it's hard to say. I think we had at one point 30 VAs, and then we
Wow.
probably had 30 sales reps in the US, or excuse me, like customer service reps, people doing guest comms. And I think it got even bigger. It's hard to recall exactly how many of us there were because, like I said, when I joined, I think we had about 30 or so properties. And then I was there for 3 years. And by the time I left, I think they were just over 600. And that was they hadn't started doing like M&A yet. So this was all through just adding individual properties,
One by
individual
one.
owners in different markets. So it was very quick growth. Yeah, I saw a lot of different iterations of our team size.
Wow. So just to get an idea at that scale of 600, they had a team of 30 people in the United States. And then
Yeah.
they had a team, what, like, would they just hire people from like all over the country? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
We
Um,
started off by doing it all pretty much US based. So it was just like people originally it was people in LA. It was me and this guy named Sam. I'll never forget. We were
yeah.
just sitting in the office and we were responding to all the messages, all hours of the day, like on our phone, on our computer. And then
What
obviously, like they
happened?
realized that
Could-
wasn't scalable
Yeah.
to pay people to do guest comms only for that high of pay. So then I think they started doing like remote
Mm,
workers, so people in like Florida, Virginia, different lower cost of living places than California because they're based in Los
yeah.
Angeles. And then eventually it was like, okay, let's have VAs do overnight. So let's
Mm,
have them do the 24/7 support. And then it was like, hey, can we scale them to do all of the guest communications for the most part? So I think there were still US based people doing like escalations, more managerial shift management stuff, but a lot of the front lines people offshore by the time I
yeah.
left.
Yeah. So they shifted over time into that because I was wondering, like, when it was just you and Sam, because this is like a 24/7 business. Like, you have to be always on the clock, technically.
Yeah.
What happened once you went left to go home after 5 p.m.? Like, did you still answer guest messages?
Oh, I'll never forget like this specific instance where Josh, he was who I was
Yeah.
reporting to, he was like, I got into the office in the morning and I was like, oh my gosh, like last night I had to delete Airbnb app off my phone because it was just like too much. Like I was off and it was just like going off. And he was like, what? You need to have the Airbnb app like all the time. And I was used to shift-based work too before I worked at ADP and stuff, or just even in sales, right? It's like business hours typically.
Yep.
And I was in B2B or B2C sales. So it wasn't crazy hours, definitely not late nights and overnights. So I just wasn't used to it. And I was like, what do you mean this is 24/7? What do you mean that we have messages at all hours? So yeah, that was wild to get used to too. We ended up just having shift work where people covered different things. But yeah,
Mm,
very quickly, basically, once we scaled out of California, especially, and had different time zones, then it became where it was like definitely we needed 24/7 support pretty quickly, people always on.
gotcha. So by the time you left, was there still 30 people? So it took, how many people does it take to do guest comms for a portfolio of 600? Is it really 30? You needed 30 people in the United States and 30 people like overnight? Or I'm curious, like, what was the staff at the time?
Well, that depends on your operation
Yeah, yeah.
because, and that's one of my opinions is I always had said the best guest experience you can ever get is that they don't interact with you really at all. So you just provide such a great property, everything's so self-explanatory through your guidebooks or how you have things outfitted. It's clean, it's ready, and they don't need to reach out to you, right? Because I just thought of myself as a guest, right? And I don't want to talk to my host really ever. There are some
Yeah,
people that want to
yeah.
get to know you and have that personal experience, but a lot of times, think of it when you go to a hotel, when you're calling the front desk, it's because something's not, you need something that's not there or something's wrong. My theory on everything was always like, how can we reduce the amount of guest comms? Because then you need fewer people. So it depends. If your operation is not great in the field, then you need more people. A lot of the offshore people too, they weren't only doing guest comms, especially if they were overnight. During the day they would, but if they were overnight, there was not enough for them to
Hmm.
do just that. So they would do different like auditing and making sure reservations were paid, different types of VA work.
We also use those team members for our VA work, just like
Yeah.
our department. So it wasn't just your department using comms members. Like Ruben came around, and was like, "Hey, do you guys want a couple VAs overnight?" And we're like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
sure."
I need more work.
Yeah,
So
they
we
need more
have,
work.
yeah.
You do like spreadsheets for them? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, let's do it.
I would get mad at him for stealing my VAs all the time because I'd be like, wait, you didn't tell me that you took them. They would be like, I'm working on something for him. And of course, they're going to listen to him.
Yeah, absolutely. That's funny. And then I think we also had a whole coding department or people that were doing like engineering and like building stuff in Brazil. So we had whole all of that infrastructure as well.
Which I didn't deal with as much, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we dealt with them as well. Cool. Okay, so great. We did the whole AvantStay thing. It was pretty big. You didn't go to AvantStay. There was something after that. So what ended your time at AvantStay? Where did you end up going? What was like the experience there?
Yeah, I think I just hit a ceiling. I think at AvantStay, we were growing so quickly. There was so much new leadership. And I think also sometimes when you grow within a company, it's just hard to break out of your shell of like me being that inexperienced
Mhm.
girl who didn't know anything about hospitality. So I just needed, I think, to change it up a little bit. I ended up leaving and going to Divvy Homes. So that's where I
Mhm.
worked next. And so I was a sales manager there and I was managing a team that covered a territory. And what Divvy Homes, they are no longer around actually as of very recently, but what they were doing is they were a rent to own platform. So it was still within prop tech. So it was like marrying almost like my past experience a little bit with selling real estate and then with the short-term rental space and just it was B2C sales, but we were just helping people that couldn't qualify for a traditional mortgage get into property ownership through this rent to own program. So I loved working there, honestly. All my colleagues were incredibly intelligent. I loved the product. I felt like I was actually doing really meaningful work and just talking to people about this was so meaningful. It was
Mhm.
like, wow, I feel like I'm actually like putting some good into the world. So I could still like do sales, do something that was good. So yeah, I was there for just over a year really. So we got hit when the interest rates started going up. And that was like probably 6 months after I joined because the model really only worked at what the interest rates were at. And then once they started increasing, we had to raise rents for it to make sense. And the rents were already higher than market just to make the model work. So it just started breaking and it was really hard for us to get properties for people. I saw the writing on the wall and was like, let me go, especially when you're in sales and your pay is tied to so
Performance,
I was like, okay, let me venture out. And Sarah, who I worked with at AvantStay,
right?
she had gone over to the company Summer and she had started with them. And so they were a company that was helping people to buy short-term rental properties with a different type of model. So it's like Divvy meets AvantStay. I was like, oh, I could totally do this. So I went over there as the head of sales and worked there next. And so that's where it was up until I went off on my own last year.
Cool. So you went on your own last year and you've acquired 30 of your own short-term rentals. Let's talk about the communication aspect or this customer service or the sales part, which those are all your skill sets. Like, how big is your team now? Do you have any VAs?
I do. I have one VA right now.
Okay. And do you still do the messaging, the guest communication, and the guest calling?
Yeah, I do all the guest comms right now.
So the question becomes, right, like our industry, I think this is really where like I was shocked in a good way. Like it was like such a thoughtful conversation because it's tough. Like a lot of people will use VAs to get going, to get things to do customer service because it's a 24/7 kind of business, hard to maintain all the time. That's what a lot of these companies are seeing. That's what a lot of small operators are seeing. Hey, the VAs, we love working with them. The thing with you, you said that the reason you have all 5-star reviews is a big part of it is because you do the communication and you understand hospitality and you've been in the, not to say that VAs are bad, always, but you just take things to another level because you understand hospitality at a high level and you've done it so long. Do you think that's scalable? I'm curious, do you ever struggle with that idea of continuously doing that?
Yeah, totally. It's not obviously scalable with me because I can
Yeah.
only handle so much.
Yeah.
And then every so often it's like I'm busy or I need to take a vacation or something. But my kind of opinion on it is I will never give guest comms to a VA ever. Like you will never see that in my business. And I'm really passionate about that because
Mhm.
we tried so hard when I was at AvantStay to do it. And you ultimately lose that hospitality portion, right? Like in my experience managing people that are virtual assistants living offshore, where like English is not their native language, no matter how good they are at spoken English, they don't understand the street names here. They don't understand brands. They don't understand what the 5 freeway is versus the 805. Like last night, there was a guy on the 5 freeway on the bridge doing some sort of Guinness World Record, trying to just sit up there, blocked the 5 off north you couldn't access, right? So any guests we had coming in, I was like, hey, FYI, this is going on, right? Because I'm local, I see local news, right? So there's just all these like little micro interactions that, in my opinion, take you from a 3 or 4 star experience to a 5 star experience that someone that's not here just can't provide. So for
Yeah.
me, I definitely will scale my team, and I am. I actually just hired someone who's local in San Diego to help me,
Mhm.
but they have to be local to my market, I think, because that's I think what makes the experience so great. And like even if things go wrong at the properties, which they always do, right? Things will
Mhm.
just break no matter how proactive you are. It's all about how you handle those situations. And it's very hard for me to train somebody on how to do that when one, they don't have the local knowledge. But then the other thing is that I've found that they're excellent workers at doing black and white tasks. So if you can write an SOP on something and give it to them, they'll crush it, right? But you can't write an SOP on, hey, this guest paid $13,000. There's 2 lights out that are 2 stories up. Someone needs to go and grab a ladder. Are you going to go buy lamps? What are you going to do? It's like you
Yeah.
have to just make decisions. And they had trouble making decisions. No matter how much we trained them, they would almost be paralyzed. What do I do? So then they call me. And then I'm like, if you're going to call me, I'm just going to talk to the guest. It's the same
Mhm.
amount of work for me than
Yeah.
having to tell you what to do. And then you talk to the guest. So that's just my experience so far.
Yeah. Have you ever found VAs that are really competent or like close to that? Because you do have a VA right now. Does she just do the back office stuff?
Yeah, so I will offload anything that I can. And that's how our structure is. It's like I will offload anything that's not guest facing. So she will create my listings, the listing descriptions, check price labs, and all these different things, right, on the back end, all the admin work that she will take that on. But then that leaves for me, all I have to do is owner relations and guest communications and onboarding new properties. So that opens
Mm.
me up a ton, right? Because I can handle that. I have a bookkeeper finally that took all that off my plate because that was another huge piece of it. But that allows me to just run the parts of the business that I'm good at, that I like to do, and that I believe are like what makes our business stand out and is so successful.
So let's talk about that middle ground because you did deal with a lot of people that lived in the United States as well. So they understand the US culture, they understand the language, they understand how things are. Let's say those people that in Florida. I'm curious, like working in AvantStay, do you think those people were up to par of the standards of what you would like? Did they still have to come to you for a lot of things? Like, I'm curious how that worked.
No, it was so much better with those types of workers for sure. But then you ultimately are paralyzed by your boundary, right? You're not going to get up and go, right? You're not going to go fix it. You have to ask somebody to fix it and you have to communicate the problem to them. And it's just a game of telephone. And for me, what I have to approach everything with empathy for the guest, right? And
Yeah.
so that is the part of this that took me years to actually learn because that is not how I'm naturally wired. I'm like, what if me versus you kind of thing. And I think
Yeah.
that's the salesperson in me. But that was one thing that I learned from Sarah working with her at AvantStay was she would always tell me, Ariel, find your heart, find your heart. And
Yeah.
she had a whole acronym for heart too. I forget what it is, but it was something like hear, empathize, respond, whatever. But it was all about this is what they're paying for, right? If someone's giving me thousands of dollars for 48 hours of time, really, if you think about it, because they get 4 p.m. to 11 a.m. 2 nights, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay. you take up 3, 4 hours of that, that's a huge impact to their experience. And I don't want to wait around for a vendor or whatever, right? Not have something that I need. The urgency is important. So for me, as I'm staffing up my team, I'm getting people that are here that can not only talk to the guests on the phone or in writing, but they can go there. They're like, I'll be right there, right? Or I'll Instacart you something. It's going to come from me. There's no game of telephone, right? So it just saves a ton of time on actually resolving issues. But it also just, I don't need to hire a bunch of people then for this person in Florida to communicate to my rep here to then, oh, an hour later they see that message and then they need to drive to the store. And it just eliminates so much back and forth. So that's really the issue with people that are not local.
So I'm curious, like so somebody's in Florida, what you're saying is they could still have, let's say, Ariel, you moved or you got properties, a portfolio of 30 properties in, I don't know, Cocoa Beach, Florida. Would you be an effective communicator, guest service, guest comms person for a portfolio in Florida? I'm just curious. Would that, because you have
Yeah.
knowledge and expertise to be empathize and to do all these things. So I'm just curious. Would
I
that
actually
be
do have two properties that are not local to my market
okay? Okay.
randomly. I have one in Lake Arrowhead, and then I have one in Bristol, New Hampshire that I took on for an owner favor of one of my owners here who is very dear to my heart.
Okay.
But I will say though, I'm not as good of a manager for those properties because it's just harder for me to manage them, right? I
Mm.
can do it, but it takes more manpower from me, right? And right now, again, it's a small team, right? It's like me, my husband, and then a VA and one other person. But as I scale, I'm going to have to pay more labor to manage those properties, right? Because I know it takes more work because
Mm.
you don't see the house. Like you can't, you're not touching it, feeling it. You're not in there all the time. You're not as familiar with the property. I've been to the property a few times, but it's been a while since I've been there now. So if a guest tries to say something, it's like I'm going off of I need you to send me pictures and or like something. And
Yeah.
then it's like I'm making them do work, which I hate doing. I'd rather just be able to service it. I do manage the one in Arrowhead. That was actually my first property. I had my co-host network settings on just all Southern California. I know the whole market, right? I got that property and I was like, oh my gosh, no, I'm staying local for all these reasons. It took me over a year and a half to really get it.
You
And
have
I
to
only
get
have
a
a team of
team.
two people. Yes. And I have to pay somebody to go and do the in-person things that I can't do. Where if I had that same person on my team here and that property was near us, we would service it. So
Do you
I'm basically
service
just
your
like cutting
property?
out people. Yeah,
Yeah.
we service all the properties and we do a lot
Yeah.
of handyman maintenance work and things like that. So I would say on average, we're in our properties at least once a week. So we know our properties really
Wow.
well. Like I know if the blue floral rug on the upstairs is torn, I'll be like, it was catching on something. Dang, I should have got that last time.
Dang.
I know these properties so well. And that's how I want my team to be because then it takes them so much less time to resolve issues and it's so much less work to staff work, right? Because
Yeah.
you can now handle, honestly, like probably 2 to 3 people, we could probably handle 100 properties because it's so easy for me to answer a question about any of my properties now.
Wow. So what do you think about the people that are, because let's say your employee, right? They're checking the house as much as you. So is there a world where she can just respond to guests?
Oh, yeah, the person who is working for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, she does. And that's one thing that she's taking over for me. So she actually covered me while I was at Level Up Your Listing. And that was my
Gotcha.
first foray into handing it over. And so I found her because she's a co-host as well. She has a couple listings. So she's smaller, she's looking for more work. And actually, I went through the co-host network like I was an owner, cherry picked the people with the best reviews. And I read all their guest reviews. And I was like, okay, who has like a similar and then I looked at the design of the properties, right? Who has a vibe that's similar to our brand and wants to provide that 5-star experience and clearly is capable of doing that, right? I love Airbnb reviews, especially for acquiring owners, because I can sell against anyone because I say, okay, no matter what they're saying to you, look at my reviews because I can't lie. These are all public. And then look at theirs. And then you decide what experience you want for your guests. And we win owners all the time because they're like, wow, yeah, they said XYZ, they're going to make me all this money. But then I'm looking and like they're saying they're not maintaining the properties, or they're saying that they don't respond, or they're saying that no one's available. And it's like, you can't hide behind that, right? That's public. And so I'm like, I use that to my advantage. Like our number one metric is 5-star reviews. We're just like, get 5-star reviews, everything else will follow, all the other successes of the business. But it's just like 5-star or bust. We will do anything for a 5-star review.
Yeah. So what's the secret sauce to getting all 5-star reviews? Because obviously you're going to get disgruntled guest. Let's say there's a guest with unrealistic expectations and they're just like complaining. They're going above and beyond to be like, I want a full refund. If I don't get a full refund, I will leave you like just like that kind of energy. I'll leave you a bad review without saying it.
Yeah.
Or like looking for all those guests that like look for the hair, like little hair. Hey, this is unacceptable. I want a full refund. Stuff
Yeah.
like that. How do you deal with that?
I've dealt with that a lot, like just in my past experience with AvantStay, right? Like de-escalation tactics. And then it's a game, right? With the platforms, it's okay, say it, write it in the platform, right? That's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
get you to do then. I try to bait them into that if they're going that direction so that at least I don't have to worry about the review. So if they say what they have to say, I'm going to give you a bad review if you don't XYZ, then I'm like, okay, cool. Because then from there, I can just handle it however I think is appropriate, right? Try to be fair, but also if it's unrealistic. We did have a recent guest in February that came into the property and said, oh, it smells like pine sol in here. It's toxic pine sol. I want to leave. But in reality, she started actually, as I started digging into what is actually the issue, right? Like, how can we resolve this? Can we come try to clean again? Can we offering solutions? Basically, she didn't like how close it was to the freeway. And it's like freeway noise that she didn't read in the listing. So that's really what she was like angling at. So it's like, if you can get to the root of that problem, then it's okay. Is it an issue that's legitimate? Is it an issue we can solve? Then you try to solve it and you just do your best. But I would say like 99% of our guests are really reasonable. And I think the other thing is like we attract really good guests, I've noticed. Like we get really great guests. Like we get chill guests, we get understanding guests for the most part. We accept instant bookings from people that have positive reviews and then we'll review ones if they don't. So if they don't have positive reviews, then we won't really
Okay.
accept them. And if they have no reviews, then we vet a little bit harder. But that's pretty much it, though. I think a lot of people, though, again, are attracted to the reviews on our listing. They want a certain quality of property. And I don't know what it is. Maybe I got lucky, or maybe it's my market because everyone's so chill in San Diego. But we don't have very many of them. But I have dealt with a lot in the past. But there's
Yeah.
not much we wouldn't do, honestly. I will literally solve their problems until they can't give me any more. We just fix it. I had a guest that complained because there was a dog that pooped on this public sidewalk, like in the alley of the property. And it's in Mission Beach. The houses are so close to one another, right? This is just a public area. But they were complaining because it's on the pathway from their car to the front door. And they're like, can someone clean this? And I was like, yes. Got some gloves at the store, got some bleach, got some whatever. And I cleaned the freaking public sidewalk. And I said, here you go, it's all clean. And I sent a picture.
That's
We just
crazy.
fix it. Like we just fix it. There's nothing that's too much for us. Like honestly, like we just solve problems because if someone is complaining about it, then there's probably other people that have thought about it and never said anything. We want someone to have a 5-star experience. So I don't want you walking through dog food to get into our house. So I will clean a public sidewalk. I told you anything for a 5-star.
Well, obviously, like people might be looking at this and being like, this is crazy. That's the logic. And people are like, it's a public sidewalk. Why clean a public? It makes no sense. But those things show that you actually care, and that's the hospitality aspect of things. And I've also heard a lot of stuff on this. That's the bridge between Ariel, this is not scalable. But then also the idea that, hey, hospitality is a people business and it's not supposed to be scalable. That's like the hard part about this. Do you have to go out there and clean it yourself? Probably not. You can probably hire somebody to do it. But at the same time, like that person, you need to pay them really well to be able to do that. Like your employee, you have to pay them really well to be able to take care of these homes because you want the best of the best. You can't skimp out on price because it's a people business and matter. And so you want the best people. So it's a hard balance between the two of scaling and being big. AvantStay, like where I'm at, where I'm like, okay, I'm growing. And so like now like quality can diminish when you grow because it's just hard. It's hard to maintain
It's
that
totally hard. Yeah,
quality.
it's very hard. I haven't seen it scale well for really ever. I don't know if you have, right? Like I just really haven't. But my whole thing is that I'm not trying to scale like as far as new markets. I want to go deep within my market, right? Because this is scalable within my market, right? Like I have some homes that are within 3 blocks of one another. we can do this all day over there, right? Like I
Yeah.
can pay somebody to just cover that area. We can walk back and forth because it's like the same thing I said about the guest comms. If I just like lower the amount of steps to
Mhm.
service, then I can service more. And the other thing is if we really maintain our properties really well on the front end, we reduce a lot of the like fire drill issues that happen. So like even right now, I do all the guest comms. I'm 24/7 support technically, right? But I very rarely have a message after 9 or 10 p.m. because there are a lot of like different things we say to the guests before they even arrive. And we have smart locks so I can see if they've already gotten into the property or not. So I'm not waiting for that, like, I can't find the code message at 12 p.m. So there's a lot that's
Yeah.
proactive in this, right? And so you can prevent a lot of it and then reduce the amount of labor that you need on like these fire drills. Because the fire drill guest complaints is the hardest thing to staff for.
I
Because it's
realized.
like
Yeah.
you have no clue what's coming to you. Even for us this summer, last summer I had 10 properties. This summer I'll have 30 at least.
Yeah.
Last summer was crazy because we're very seasonal here. I don't know what to expect this summer as far as like how many people do I need to be on call to do things. But that's actually one benefit of me partnering with my business partners who are real estate agents. I have a real estate team and I have a lot of agents that have a lot of time and want to make money. So I just say, hey, great. Do you want to do task based work? Are you free to go do XYZ? Right. And so that helps me to also be super lean. But I have all these extra resources that I can pull from if we get super, super busy at any given time.
Because you know this market and you live in here. So it's like you have resources, people, and that's the
Yeah.
locality aspect. And I think what's really interesting about this whole convo is like Vacasa failed. That's the crazy thing. Vacasa failed and they've been losing a lot of homes. They've been going downhill and they had to get bought out by Casago. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard about that.
Yeah. And like the idea with Casago that I really like is that they do the franchise model and then they have local operators that understand that market, taking care of that market. And I like that a lot because the locality is so important. It's like people try to scale with the big back office. But then what they
Hmm.
realize really is like the big back office is not to shit on AvantStay. It's not to shit on them. It's more so like to talk about how their structure was in the past. We had so many people working in the back end, but then we needed more people in the front lines. That's really what
Yeah,
matters. So the back end's really important too, but it's like that balance of like still having that locality, and that's what you have in your market. And that's what I've seen work is when people like you will just dominate a market because you just have such a high touch point. And to be honest, it's hard to hire a big management company with 200 units, 300 units in San Diego versus Ariel. That's going to clean your like the poop on the side of the public sidewalk because to make a guest happy and get a 5-star review. That's what you're competing against. It's hard to compete against that.
totally.
Because
Yeah,
you've
I
seen
win a
both
lot of
sides.
owners for that. A lot of the owners that I've brought on have been looking at, especially recently as we've gotten bigger, they look at bigger management companies and they tell me the reason that they end up going with us is because they meet me face to face, right? I'm like, oh, I go to that coffee shop around the corner all the time, right? A lot of my owners don't live in San Diego. And so they want someone who's here that's going to take care of their property, right? They are trusting me. Otherwise, they would be doing it remotely, maybe themselves, right? So they want someone who's going to be the boots on the ground. And the boots on the ground is the biggest thing to them, right? And we have to be able to provide that. I couldn't imagine any of my owners working with anyone that didn't have people here or even speaking to someone about working with us that wasn't here.
Yeah.
That would be wild to me. But yeah, the local presence, it's so relevant to real estate, right? When I sold real estate, one of my mentors told me, like, you're in the people business, right? People sell residential real estate for personal, emotional reasons. And it's all about these connections that you make with someone and solving their problems. And it's the same reason why, like, all these big real estate brokerages that try to do like iBuying or virtual real
Mhm.
estate services don't work
Mhm.
because it's so emotional and it's so personal. And this is a huge investment for a lot of these people, for the owners. And so it's like you have to give it like a nurturing care,
Yeah.
and that's what makes everything work. And again, the more we can have our hands on the properties and really know our properties, the less work we have on like the guest com side, again, because like I'm on a podcast right now and I'm chilling because All my guests are serviced. My cleaners know exactly what to do, and we're good. We're chilling.
I think in this business, like where things go wrong is like you were talking about. What was the terminology used? We call it just emergencies, but you were talking about something.
Fire drills.
Fire drills. Yeah, fire drills.
Yeah.
I like that. But it's true. It's a ripple effect. If one thing is wrong in the business, let's say miss clean. Now the guest comms team is, oh my God, there's a misclean. The guest is freaking out. The guest comms start getting noticed. Now they're going to start trying to coordinate something to happen, right? They're going to coordinate a maintenance person. They're going to coordinate somebody to do something. And now it's okay, great. From there, now the owner gets involved, and the owner's like, oh my God, I see it. Why did the miss clean? Why did you guys miss the clean? Now the cleaner's getting notified. Now the cleaner's on call, and then they have to come back and fix it. And now I'm getting notified by the owners or the operation manager or whoever, because the owner's getting pissed. And they talk to the person that's taking care of their property manager. And they're like, what's going on? Why has the clean been missed? Blah, blah, blah. It's just this whole emergency where the whole team is on, and when you have 3 or 4 of those, it's like, where do we focus our time or energy? And it's just going to get bad reviews. So with those escalation times, how do you manage those escalations, like when things do go wrong?
Yeah, we just manage it the same way we manage any minor complaint, right? It's the exact same formula. It's like we empathize with the guest, we try to provide solutions. One thing I think that works really well too is we give guests the options because all guests are different, right? There are some guests who are like, hey, there's something wrong, right? Say there's like a light burned out. They're like, hey, this light's burned out. Just want to let you know, all good, right? We always still offer, hey, do you want us to come by and check it out before you leave? Or if not, we'll thank you for letting us know. We'll do it after the stay, right? So we just let the guests lead, right? And some of them are going to be like, yeah, can you come by? Some of them are like, no worries. So we just let the guests lead. So same with any issues, right? It's okay, let them vent, right? What's the problem? Okay, what's going on? Okay, what can we do?
Yeah.
Calling people is also huge. Like I find that guests are scary in writing sometimes just because
Mhm.
they like have different ways of
Writing
writing.
styles.
I'll just call them, right? And be like, hey, what's going on? Because also just showing that you're a person, right? I'm not a little avatar on a screen.
Yeah.
I'm local. I'm here to solve your
Mhm.
problem. But it also eliminates, like you said, like those like bad actor kind of people because they can't just get by us, right? It's
Yeah.
okay, I'll come by and take a look. And they're like, oh no, it's okay. Like they're trying
Yeah.
to exaggerate something, right? I'm like, okay, I'll come take a look or I'll send somebody. And it's just, but you just kill them with problem solving and empathy. And then honestly, I haven't had a guest yet that's like, I haven't been able to overcome in some way because ultimately they want to have a good vacation usually, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and if you talk to them in person, you find out a lot of things, right? I had a woman yesterday who called me who the lights burning out are relevant. That's why I keep bringing that up. There were like a
Yeah.
couple lights burnt out above the dining table, and she said there weren't enough pans or something. I've
Mhm.
never heard this from a guest. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, let me go over there. Turns out it's like she flew 15 hours from Israel. She has her whole family coming over. She's hostessing and she wants to have a really nice meal. And she's just stressed out and she just wants it to be perfect. And I'm like, hey, we'll get it for you. We'll get it fixed. And then I got invited to the dinner. And that's like, well, like
That's so
you just
awesome.
have to approach people like you approach any problem solving. It's just like de-escalation is an extreme skill set that took me a long time to learn, but helps me a lot in all aspects of my life. But definitely in this
Mhm.
business, you have to know how to de-escalate, especially if you're talking to guests. If you do not know how to de-escalate and the guest escalates you and it becomes a tit for tat,
Yeah.
you're
So
dead in the water.
de-escalation, that's something that you learn by working at AvantStay, you'd say?
Yes, because when I was doing customer support, I had to learn how to de-escalate guests. And it was more difficult there, to be honest, because I couldn't solve the problem, right? So I had to rely on a field team to decide if and when and what solution they're going to go
Mm.
forward with, and then ultimately deal with the repercussions of it. So, say for example, there's a dishwasher out, it's not working, and the guest shows up and it's broken. And then
Mm.
the field team reaches out to the owner and they want to use home warranty. So it's going to take 5 days for someone to come out.
Yep.
Guess
Mm.
what? That was the resolution that we're stuck with. And I have to then try to keep the guest as happy as possible when they're mad that they're missing
Yeah.
something. Here though, that's why I like running my own business. I'm like, this is so much easier for me because guess what? I'll buy you a new dishwasher if I have to and install it myself. They're $300. Like I'm not waiting for something because again, 5-star reviews. That's like what I care about. But when I tell you like the crazy things that we've done, if you look at our breezeway to get 5-star
Yeah.
reviews, like
You're like, what was that? Like,
we'll do crazy stuff, rabbit out of the hat. But the guests appreciate it though, right? They're like, you jumped over like through hoops for me. And even if we can't find a solution, we will run everything into the ground until we find a solution for them.
I love that. So now thinking back, I think the one concept I wanted you to explain a little bit more, I think that I really liked is the whole idea of having the direct ability to take action on something once you receive the information versus telling like the steps, right? Having to like have the guest comms, take the whatever problem, and then have to ask somebody else to go do it, and then that other person might not be available. Like, how do you manage that communication flow? Because communication is really important, and I think you've seen it probably at AvantStay. Maybe you can compare to like how things got solved. Maybe was there like two steps before something gets done, and then maybe it was like too
Yeah.
late, or things got lost in communication, somebody dropped the ball. Like, I'm curious like how that works out.
Yeah, so for example, it would be like from my recollection, it's been a while, but it was like guest calls in, for example, reports an issue, right? It was like, okay, great, taking down the issue, putting it into a work order in Breezeway, like within a certain template, right? That's notifying a field team, and then you're just waiting for a response from the
Mm,
field. And these are people that are running around from property to property and managing their time in whatever. And I don't know exactly how, because I wasn't directly on ops, right? So I don't know exactly how they were meant to manage their time, but ultimately, it's every single one of us who has a guest that's pissed is going, I'm urgent. I'm urgent.
yeah,
No, I'm
yeah,
urgent. I'm urgent. Like,
yeah,
mine's the most important. And it was like, okay, how do you prioritize? And I get it. If you're in the field, how do I choose like which guests do I go in order of reporting, which may not be like you want to go from most paid probably to
yeah,
lowest paid and least mad. But it's hard to do that scale. It's almost impossible, right? Unless we have maybe AI now. We didn't have AI then, but maybe AI could sort it. But that's how it happened there. And so we just reduce a lot of the steps. Now, obviously, I'm speaking just for myself, but I can speak to having an employee now because this is exactly how I've instructed her to do things.
yeah,
I said, make a decision, get a 5 star. That's what I care about. She
yeah,
doesn't have parameters on spending. She doesn't have parameters on refunds or anything. Ultimately, I will deal with that on the back end, and I'll deal with like my owner, or I'll deal with, oh my gosh, she spent all this money, whatever. But I just hire people though. That's why I like to have her come in because she knows this business already. And
yeah,
that's the thing. It was like me seeing basically which was her resume, which was her reviews. And I'm like, you already know how to do this. You already know how to deal with unreasonable guests. You already
yeah,
know how to deal with crazy demands. You know how to get 5 star reviews. Just keep doing what you're doing, and everything else again will flow. The other big thing is I choose my owners, right? So we don't take on everybody that wants to come on to with us. We take on properties that we feel like we can appropriately service, and that owners who understand our brand standards, which are 5 star reviews. And we're like, hey, you care about making money? Great, get 5 star reviews. Because if you don't get 5 star reviews, you're not going to get booked. Or we're going to have to decrease your rates to get you booked. And then you're not going to hit your revenue numbers anyway. But it's like, we get 5 star reviews, then we can command the rates we want. We can sit at the top of the
hmm,
market. Like almost all our homes are guest favorites. We're 5 stars like everywhere that we can because, and we're like, then we see the revenue follow. So if an
yeah,
owner's not bought into that, then they can't come on board. So that's the other piece where it's that allows my team then to act the way we need to act because everything will be justified based on we're getting a 5 star review. Like we're getting a
right,
5 star review. Like
yeah,
period.
yeah. Whatever it takes. And I think that culture kind of sets into what people feel and how they go about doing their things. Wow.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
have to feel empowered. I think that's the other piece
Yeah.
that was hard with VAs, right? So no matter how much I would tell them, you are not going to get in trouble for making a decision, they would just be so scared of getting in trouble that they wouldn't make a
Mhm.
decision and they would just be paralyzed, like I said. So it's like you have to empower the people under you to really own the guest experience. And so it's do what you feel you need to do because I can't teach you how to solve these issues because they're so random, right? Like you've seen like the weirdest things. Well, I saw the thing where your guests burn the chairs. That was
Yeah.
crazy. I love that.
Yeah.
I don't love
It's
it for
like,
you, but I love that story because it's just, of course, right?
of
Like
course
something
they would do that.
absolutely nuts, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, how can you write an SOP for how to handle that, right? Like you can't. You
Yeah.
just have to
Right.
say, this is how we approach things, right? This is our general point of view. And then it's go do it because otherwise, then they're coming to me for everything. And then again, at that point, I'm just like a doer. I'm like, just let me do it myself. But
Yeah.
I know that's not scalable. So it's okay. Just make a decision, right? Figure it out. How do you handle the chair people?
Yeah.
Like,
You just gotta have common sense or just like intuitive decision making. Like you just have to have
yeah,
that.
you just have to hire people that have a certain mindset, right?
Yeah.
So I love people that like even Right now, when I'm small, I really love people that obviously own short-term rentals, right? That's the best, right? You own your own property, you understand the owner perspective, you understand the guest perspective, and you're operating it actively. And you're in Airbnb, you know all the platforms, you know everything, whatever. That's like number one, right? Experience and
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
mindset. And then, but if I can't find someone with experience or I can't afford them, then
Mhm.
it's okay, who's worked in a restaurant? Had to work for tips,
Mhm.
who's worked at a hotel, like knows hospitality, brand standards, like dealing with escalations, like people in those backgrounds, generally, if they're successful within it, they already have this mindset ingrained in them, right? Problem solving, making the guest happy, service, right? Like we're in service to our guests, we're in service to our owners. So
Yeah.
service, we're a service-based business. And I think that's what people lose when they try to scale this. They're like, oh, it's like almost like flipping, buy a house, get it ready, sell it.
Yeah.
What about the service? That's literally what the guest is buying.
Yeah.
And we're
Service.
losing that.
Absolutely. That's huge. I think that like conversation that we had, it was just so well brought out here. Just to wrap things up, I have the last three questions I always ask my guests and just go from there. One of them is going to be a special question just for you.
Okay.
And so the top three is first is educational resource. What educational resource do you think was most valuable to you to, it doesn't have to be real estate related, but something that's really truly helped you in life?
Yeah, I think just networking. I don't know if that would count as an educational resource, but I've learned so much from other people, just being a sponge. Like even now, I'm in a lot of the Facebook groups with the hosts and I learn stuff, new stuff every day. I don't need to go through the school of hard knocks necessarily if I can just read what someone else did and what how they solved something and go from there. That particularly helps me with my remote market because I don't know that market. So I rely on what people are chattering about in the market to give me the local knowledge. So just kind of like sourcing things through networking, I think is huge. And it's free, right?
Yeah.
Anyone can do that.
So
Facebook groups for sure. If you are a host, get in your local Facebook group because almost every area has one. And some are more active than others, but there's a lot of good stuff in there.
absolutely. This question's for you. Just like in a situation, right? Let's say you can have as many short-term rentals as you want. I'm just curious, like in your perfect situation, how many short-term rentals do you have and where are you living and where are these short-term rentals located? You could be anywhere in the world and you have a choice. Would you stay in San Diego or do you think that you would open some shop in Tulum or somewhere else? I'm just curious, like what's your thought process there?
I would stay here. I feel like I'm truly living the dream. This is such a great market. This is one of the oldest vacation markets there is, right? People have been traveling here forever. I came here as a kid, like living in Central California to go to the beaches. We have that like benefit of the market is super strong. And then we have four seasons and then or we don't have four seasons. So we are a four season market, right? Like we always have demand throughout the year. Granted, summer's gangbusters for us, but we
Mhm.
still have great demand throughout the year. And I just love living here. So I think honestly, like I tell my husband all the time, I want to plop like right in the middle of all my houses, like near the beach, not right by it because it's hard to get in and out, right? But maybe get a golf cart. I can golf to the
Yeah.
beach, see a few of my properties, and then just have all my properties like within a radius of me. So I can go to all of them as needed. But yeah, it's funny. One thing that Natalie said at Level Up Your Listing that really stuck with me was when she was doing her speech, she mentioned we all want to retire on a beach, right? And then she's like, yeah, like we would all retire for 1 second and then we'd be working again because we're all like entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
That definitely hits me sometimes because I'm always like, oh, what am I building this to? And it's I love doing this. I love it. If you couldn't tell, like I'm very enthusiastic about it. I love what I do.
Yeah.
And so it makes it so easy for me because I just love it. I love interacting with people and I love homes and I love San Diego. So it's awesome. I'm super happy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you literally are embracing the build the life you want around where you live or what you do.
Mhm.
Like, for example, I feel like when I went to visit my friend Jeremy in New York, I think it was perfect. He did the same thing what you did, where he was like, I'm just going to build my whole lifestyle around where I want to live and what I want to do. I'm in New York. I love New York. I'm going to have my rentals elsewhere. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the gym be walking distance from my place and Lifetime Gym. I go play basketball every morning. Then I go to my office, also walking distance from the gym and from my home. I go pick up a coffee and then I go to work and then I'm there with everybody else and I go back home. And it's like my lifestyle's built around me. This is what I love to do. So for you, it's like the beach version. You have your golf cart.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm just gonna make my business around me and doing what I love to do. But then also my work is literally like it's all around me. Like you just walk to your property that you manage. Like that's like that. And then you can also go to the beach for your personal time, and you can also spend time at the
Yeah.
local coffee shop. I just feel like you built that lifestyle around you.
Yeah. I really have. And
Cool.
it just helps that I love where I live and that where I live is a great short-term rental market. So it all
Yep.
worked out.
Yep. Cool. And then last question, like what's the future hold for Ariel? What are you really excited to do? And yeah, what's like on the dock?
Yeah. We're growing a lot. We've been onboarding a ton of properties, which is great. Like I mentioned, I just brought someone on who's helping a lot with design, guest comms, all the things, which is amazing. So I think we just continue to grow. This summer, I have a wedding to go to in Europe. So it's going to be a big, okay, I'm
Wow.
actually going to be away from the business for a while. But I'm excited about it because I think it's just a new like stage of growth where it's like, can this thing that I built really, it's like your little baby, can it go without me for a little
Yeah.
bit? So yeah, we're just continue to grow. I'm looking for great properties, really cool owners who want to make money and have a great guest experience. So yeah, just continue to do what we're doing here in San Diego. Yeah.
Sweet. And then for people that want to get in touch with you, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram. Our page is Stay at the Coastline. Or you can also email me. It's Ariel at stayatthecoastline.com. I'm not big on Instagram. I'm like a lurker, not a poster. So I have a private page, but you
Yeah.
could try to find me. If you find me from here, send me a message and I'll accept you. Um, but yeah, that's the best way to find us. And then our website is stayatthecoastline.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge. You have a lot of industry experience. You got to know that. Like you've done this for a
You're
while.
doing great too, though. I'm
So,
so happy to see your success. It's wild, like where we came from
yeah.
working in the WeWork in
Yeah.
LA to now. Like, who would have thunk? So it's
Yeah.
awesome. And I'm so
And
glad I ran into you.
I know. It was just literally we ran into each other in person at an industry event, and we're both still in the industry. And we're like, oh, wow, okay, I did not know. So it was really cool catching up. But yeah, you crushed it. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later. All right.
All right, thanks. Bye.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to the Patrick Real Estate Show. If you found this episode helpful, please give us a follow and leave us a 5-star review. Your support truly means a lot. And connect with Patrick in the show notes below. Until next time.